Okay, y'all. So we waiting on a verdict, and we may get one this week in the Breasia Terrell's murder trial, and the defendant is Henry Stinking Dinkins. Okay, Stinky Dinky. I got another video rendering right now, but this right here, I had to do a short video on this, y'all, because while looking for some other answers, I come across this. I mean, we going over in that video, we're talking about AJ Armstrong, and we're talking about Henry Dinkins, and waiting on this verdict and the defense closing arguments. We were listening to some of the closing arguments and going over some of the things that he was trying to say in his argument. And we got to a good point in his closing arguments to where he may have we may have figured out what he's trying to make the defense to be and where he's going with his argument, and it was all trash until he got to a certain point. So watch that video. Okay, it's a little long, which is why I'm taking this part of the video and making it into a shorter video. And this is Henry Dinkins' previous record. Now, I went over his record in other videos, but I only talked about him having amphetamine charges and him having the previous rape charge of the 5-year-old. I did not go into full explanation of Henry's previous history. We've been looking at all these mug shots, and we did not get a full breakdown. And this is very disturbing. Judge, if you don't keep this dude, y'all, he is y'all's. He been y'all's. This time y'all need to keep him. Okay, y'all need to keep him. The bond was dropped, and dropped on society with Henry Dinkins. Time and time again. So it's time for y'all to make this right. And laws need to be changed. Okay. So Iowa granted an early release from prison. And this is posted on May 18, 2021, to a repeat offender just months before he allegedly kidnapped and killed a 10-year-old girl, according to parole documents released Tuesday. Y'all remember Breasia's mom, Aisha, sat in court, and she said she had not had contact with Henry since his last jail sentencing. So she knew she was giving her daughter to a criminal. She knew he was in and out of jail, so then you surprised when a criminal do what criminals do. What you mean, Henry? You the one who lost her. What you mean? You surprised he lost her? Okay, so the Iowa Board of Parole granted Henry Dinkins parole from a Davenport minimum security residential facility in March of 2022. Breasia went missing July 9th, 10ish, 9th-ish, July 10th, and they were looking for her on the 10th. And they determined in March, just not even 4 months earlier, that he was able and willing to fulfill the obligations of a law-abiding citizen. They said there is reasonable probability that you can be released without a detriment to the community or yourself. Now, they said this in March. Now, listen. They said this knowing all of what I'm about to read. Okay? So, according to the parole order signed by the board's chair, Helen Miller, that the Associated Press obtained under the Open Records Law, Less than 4 months after his parole, Dinkins, a registered sex offender with a history of violent and reckless behavior, allegedly kidnapped Breasia from a Davenport apartment complex, shot her to death, and hid her body in rural eastern Iowa. You forgetting something since you got allegedly in there. You forgetting the point of where he assaulted her as well. Because he didn't just take her and shoot her because he just wanted to take somebody and shoot him. I'm pretty sure somebody owed him money. He was a dealer. At the time he was granted parole, Dinkins was 48, and he was awaiting trial on felony charges in Illinois of possession of methamphetamine and amphetamine with intent to deliver stemming from the April 2019 traffic stop. Now, I read this before. This was the only thing I read in conjecture with him being a criminal and his conviction when he was 17, and he violently assaulted sexually the 5-year-old girl. So we knew he was awaiting trial for that, right? But we didn't know all of this about that. Pay attention. It's unclear whether Iowa authorities took that into consideration. How's it unclear? We need some accountability. We need for y'all to make it plain. Did you? Because you're supposed to. Did you take it in consideration? I'm pretty sure they did, but they didn't care. Breasia was the half-sister of Dinkins' son, and investigators say both children were staying the night with him in an apartment, which is illegal because he is a registered offender, where he was living with a girlfriend. That girl's July disappearance prompted a months-long search that ended in March, when 2 people fishing near DeWitt discovered her remains in a pond. So a year after y'all released him on parole, her body was found. But he killed her less than 4 months after y'all released him. Dinkins is charged with first-degree murder and kidnapping, each of which carried a possible life term. A public defender representing him didn't immediately return a phone message seeking comment. Dinkins is set to be arraigned next month. Iowa Board of Parole records detail Dinkins' criminal history and some leniency he received along the way, even as he committed crime after crime. Iowa. Y'all think I'm playing? You better get on this. He had been in and out of prison and correctional programs since 1990, when he was convicted of third-degree sexual abuse of a child when he was 17. She was 5. And he was required to register as a sex offender. He'd been arrested and cited dozens of times on charges that included violating sex offender registry requirements, assault while displaying a dangerous weapon, domestic violence. Somebody said, I missed that one when I just read it in the other video. I read it, but it went past me. Somebody said, I wonder if he used to beat Andrea. Somebody said that. And the way she testified, I thought to myself, he didn't have to. She was the right type for him, because she looked at things he didn't tell her as he wanted to protect her from it. And I'm pretty sure that's what he would tell her. Because when he was asked why he didn't tell Andrea, why he didn't tell the mama right away, oh, I wanted to protect them from this. Oh, you thought you was going to go out and find her. So domestic violence, I wonder with who? Because him and Andre been together 6 years, so maybe we ought to look for those records, y'all. Because I only looked up his sex registry. Fuck it. Okay, so I did a quick search. I I wasn't able to find a site where you can just look them up. That's going to take too much time. I did see where they had where you can request records and you got to pay, fill out the form, send it in, all that old school stuff. And I know it's something where you can just Google in somebody's name. I think every state has it, but I don't got that kind of time. So this is very clear right here. Where do we leave off? Okay, so he received a lot of leniency. Now, he had been in and out of prison and correctional program since 1990, and he was 17 then. So he been a criminal pretty much his whole adult life. Man, this could have been prevented in so many ways. He been arrested and cited a dozen times on charges that included violating sex offender registry requirements, assault while displaying a dangerous weapon, domestic violence, drug possession, theft, and eluding. A 2009 murder charge was dropped after the police say he was a witness and not the killer. His most recent return to prison stemmed from a march. Now, if they gave him a charge, not just arrest, that's an interesting story. So, his most recent return to prison stemmed from a March 2019 arrest in which he was allegedly high on crack. He was high on crack. And he crashed into a Davenport yard while trying to flee from the police. Briage's mom, Aisha, said that she last saw him when he was arrested, right? Assuming it was 2019. So she know, and then the smirk on her face when she said that, when they asked her, when the last time you saw him? And she was like, oh, I haven't seen him since he was arrested the last time. Like, she think that shit cute. That's their life. That's their life. She saw him and immediately gave her children to him. So March of 2019, he was arrested for being high on crack, and he crashed into a Davenport yard while trying to flee from police. They say it was at least his fifth arrest. Okay, Dinkins the five times for operating a vehicle while intoxicated since 2007. Fifth. Now, keep that in mind, okay? In 2014, officers used a stun gun and pepper spray to subdue him after he crashed his car while high on cocaine. Didn't he just crash his car already? You crashing it again? You high again? Boy. And they used a stun gun and pepper spray. He was on. In 2011, he allegedly caused an accident involving multiple semi-trailers and cars when he drove the wrong way on an Interstate 80 while intoxicated. This dude didn't want to live no good life. And he clearly didn't care about others, so why y'all didn't just keep him? In another incident that year, he drove 90 miles per hour. They just keep letting him do it. 90 miles per hour while high through a residential area where children were playing. I'm surprised the local people didn't rally up for them to keep this dude after this. When you know somebody drove 90 miles per hour through a residential area where children were playing, was he in the hood? I mean, like, you gotta just not care. Because why you don't go down there, look him up, and push for them to keep that dude? So his SUV engine ended up exploding. Days after, that's what I was about to say. He ended up getting him a Camaro. Days after the March 2019 OW, he could have hit somebody y'all care about with that Camaro. Because he ain't no NASCAR driver, that's for sure. In March of 2019, his OWI, on which that's involving DUIs, um, operating while intoxicated. He was arrested while allegedly in possession of more than 900 grams of meth and 200 grams of amphetamine in the Bureau County of Illinois. And they let him go after just posting $100,000 bond, which is 10%. He posted 10% of that. They let him go. Judge Joel Barrows sentenced Dinkins to up to 5 years in prison in October of 2019 and barred him from drinking for 6 years. So what they decided to do with Dinkins is he served 60 days and then he was transferred to the minimum security Davenport residential facility. Are these criminals working for y'all? Because at this point, I want to know, are they working for the government or the state? Because it seems like he's your employee. It seems like his corruption and havoc that he's wreaking all out in the public is direct work that you want him to perform. Because when you grab him, you let him go so he can do it again. So this must be his job. There he completed a 4-month substance abuse treatment program and secured full-time employment. Records show where? For the state. Where else? For the state. 4 months? You've been reckless since you was 17, getting high, getting drunk, driving crazy, getting high, getting drunk, driving crazy, selling drugs, beating up women, getting high, getting drunk, crashing people, multiple people. You witnessed a murder where you was arrested for it allegedly. In the beginning. So this was more than them speculating that he did it. But he got full-time employment where? Man, listen. A probation officer recommended he be released by April the 6th. That's his handler? That's his handler. Why would you recommend somebody like him be released? The defense attorney sitting there talking about he don't got that swag. Look at him. No, we don't need to look at the monster in his face, in his physique, and his ugly hair. We need to look at him on paper. That's what we need to look at. We see he ugly. We heard him talk, but we need to look at him on paper. He don't got what? He got something. He got something that is considered useful for them to keep letting him out. It's got something he doing that they like, right? His probation officer recommended he be released by April the 6th of 2020. And then moved up his release to March 19th. He was supposed to be released in April. And that's only after 4 months of a substance abuse treatment program and some alleged full-time job. Now, notice they have it in quotation marks. Secured full-time employment. This state needs to be investigated on this matter. Notice how they not even trying to hold, what's her name? Andrea Breazia's mother and Breazia's grandmother accountable for any of their parts. Especially Andrea, who was there. She was there. She'd have to prove in court that she was not directly involved, for all I'm concerned. She would have to prove in court that she was not directly involved. But we know it's up to the state to prove that you did it. So I don't know what they would have other than, what we are all thinking. You lied. You came forth and said you lied. And if they charged her, she probably would have never came forth with what she did. But who knows? Maybe in facing charges, she's scared. She said, "No, I saw him. She was at the car. I didn't say nothing, but I should have." Everything she said in court. Or she possibly could not have said it. Like, we don't know how that would have turned out. And I don't know when she finally told the truth. And it wasn't no time soon. I don't think it was by the time they found her body or any of that. Honestly, without knowing exactly when Andrea told the truth, I think she didn't tell the truth until she started seeing, they started showing her all the stuff he'd been up to behind back. And who knows how they did that. They probably had to be clever to get it out of her, because I think she was going to stick beside him. The way she was going at the officers and stuff like that for seeing him as a suspect, I think they had to get her, because she drove him there. Well, he drove, but she was with him. And they parked the car around the corner while he's sitting up there talking about Vince and them got the car until he called him back, but he don't have their number. She was really down with this dude, and I think they got her in the room, had her telling her, this what your boy been up to. Yeah, this is girl, that's his girl, blah, blah, blah. And he said, y'all really ain't even kicking it. He said, y'all just friends, and he don't even really stay there. You see, he was knocking on the door. Here's the body cam from the officer. While you was sitting in there waiting on your man, he's sitting out here telling us that y'all just friends, and he ain't even with you like that. He's saying that to the officer. I guess because he know the body cam there. He want his other girls to hear that he not with you like that. He driving around your car, he ain't even claiming you. And I think all that stuff got to her eventually, but because that woman probably give up everything. She probably give him all her money, everything. But April, he was supposed to be released. And then the probation officer moved up his release date to March 19th. Miller approved both requests, ending a sentence that had been projected to last until January 22nd. I ain't even gonna say it. Wayne McCullough, because this is suspect to me. This is suspect. And even if some of the things that my mind is thinking is not true about all this, y'all need to be like, there need to be some accountability held and laws changed for this. Because there's no way somebody like this should have been continuously getting released. I'm here to tell y'all, you gotta put that work in, man. I'm serious. Waylon McCullough, director of the 7th Judicial District Department of Correctional Services in Davenport, said the handling of his sentence was standard process for repeat OWI offenders. And that the coronavirus pandemic didn't appear to have an impact on the release decision, but said the case was complicated by the Illinois charge, which have not been resolved. How is it complicated by it when he has so many other offenses, so many other times, so many other charges? that case pending didn't have no impact on it. But he said the case was complicated by the Illinois charge, that which has not yet been resolved. That's BS. Records show Dinkins appeared in an Illinois courtroom on July 8th. So that means that he went to Illinois, went to court for a conference, was supposed to go on trial July 27th. Came back from Illinois and saw Breasia, Dink, and Aisha on July 9th. Went and picked up Breasia and Dink on July 9th. And I'm just realizing his little nickname is Dinkins' last name. July 10th, she gone. Not even 4 months after they decided to release him super early on top of the early, she gone. The day after he came back from court in Illinois, she is gone. Picked up 2 days later, gone. Now, it's a horrible situation and horrific crime, McCullough said, but of course we have to keep in mind that he has yet to be convicted. Man, if Iowa don't get up on this here, who knows who child gonna be next? Who knows who innocent person driving a car, family member gonna be next? Who knows who innocent family member on the street gonna be next? And I'm not even just talking about Henry. I'm not even just talking about Henry, because let's say with Henry, y'all, I hope y'all putting fire in their ass with this, and the judge know to take your time, because not only do we want a conviction, we don't want him winning no appeals, and we don't want him getting out ever. No possibilities, no parole. That can never change. I don't care who he charm, whatever he do, and all his little friends need to come forth and explain why they kept letting him out and decided to let him out early. There is nothing that this dude can do to show in 4 months that he is not going to commit any crimes anymore with all this he's done. All this. And you telling me 4 months is all he had to do was to prove to y'all that early? And then, you know what? Make it earlier than that. Hurry up. We need to hurry up and let him go. He's a great guy. That's what you said. That's what the paperwork. Can we see the paperwork? I mean, where is he working at? Because as we read before, there are conditions upon where a sex offender can be employed. Was the offended notified that he was out? Why is there not a program, a mandatory law in place, knowing that Dinkins has a child with what's her name? Some start with Aisha. Knowing he has a child with her, and Dinkins is restricted on children, what are the rules about your own children? She should be notified immediately to make sure. They need to find out if any sex offender has any children. And if they are made to be sex offenders, it should be mandatory that they get the other parent involved in the case and let them know your child's father is an offender, officially an offender, so the rules have changed. And they need to be asking them questions, and they need to be like, we need to talk to your child. I don't care if you like it or not. You can be there looking through the glass or something. But we don't need the answers. We don't need them to be intimidated. Oh, I don't want my mom to hear this. None of that. We need to talk to that child and see if we ain't doing an evaluation. And you need to be clear about what the rules are for this person being around children, including yours. We need to let you know that you are legally responsible, because listen to this, at minimum, that child is in trouble, because you're not going to tell me a sex offender has so many morals that they're not going to touch their own child. We already know that's not true. There's too many cases out there, and there's too many people that are here today still telling their stories, still coming out about how it still affects them and these things happen. We know that they have babies with their own children. We know that they don't, the morals of them are way different than people who do not do nothing like that. So there's no limitations. A child's a child. So it should be mandatory that that parent is made aware and held under the standards of the law, that they know, you put on notice that if you violate, sign this paperwork, they on the program, you on the program too. Okay. We need to be making sure that you are doing your duty, because you have something that gives this man access to a child. And not just a child, other children. Prime example, Breasia. Prime example, Dinkins' son, Dink. Because Aisha had Dink with Henry, who was the sex offender, she also had other children, which led him access to other children, which can also lead him access to other children that might be over their house. That sex offender can come see their child and the child's people there, friends, cousins. They got access to them children. They might be at a birthday party with their child. Other children not gonna be there? They might go to their child's school and knowing they ain't supposed to. At least a parent knows. So somebody gonna get held responsible. How did he get to the school meeting? Did you know he was coming? You got to prove to us that you didn't know he was going to be there. You saw him there and you didn't report it? That's your ass too. Why? Because he need to stay away from children. When you leave it up to what? What did they lead us up to? Oh, Henry. Let's find that statement. He is going to be a good guy. Yes. That's what they, Where is it where she decided to release him and wrote a statement and said that we have reasons to believe that he gonna be a good dude. He gonna be all right. Okay, high on crack, blah, 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 accidents, 90 miles per hour, engine blew up, 900 grams of meth, cocaine, heroin, okay, blah, 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 barred him for driving for 6 years, and he not supposed to drink. Who was watching him to see if he didn't drink a 40 ounce or something? They put him in the minimum security Davenport residence. He wasn't even in jail, y'all. He was in a residential facility. This is what they chose to do with him instead of giving him only 5 years. He only got sentenced for 5 years after all this he had done thus far. In October of the year before she got missing, he only got served 5 years, and he didn't even do that. He got transferred to a 60-day service in a minimum security Davenport residential facility, where he completed only 4 months of a substance abuse treatment program, and he secured full-time employment. What was he working at, y'all? Daycare center? Because it sounds like something y'all would do. A probation officer recommended he be released by April 6th of 2020, then moved up his release date to March 19th. Miller approved both requests, ending a sentence that had been projected to last until January 2022. Waylon McCullough, director of the 7th Judicial District Department of Correctional Services in Davenport, said the handling of this sentence was appropriate, standard process. And, okay, so I'm skipping over it clearly. Okay, here it is. It's way up here. So there's a reasonable probability that you can be released without detriment to the community or yourself. Based on what? Based on what? Because there's nothing you can tell me in the little 4 months that you held him that proves this. Out of all the things that we see that he was convicted for and charged for, There's no way you're going to tell me in 4 months that you came to this conclusion about this dude who been in trouble doing all this since 17. He 48 now. 17, he 48 now. 17, he 48 now. His whole life. So in 4 months, there is reasonable probability. That's not what do y'all reasonable. Listen, I'm just going to give you, we're going to let Google, give us this. A probability that the result of a proceeding would have been different if not for the unprofessional errors of counsel or non-disclosure of exculpatory material by the prosecution, which is sufficient to undermine confidence in the out. Did we not come to this as the first definition of reasonable probability? I can't. I just want to throw the phone. Ayana, where's your bushes at? Can we go over there and we? These are the words that were used. And this is the Merriam-Webster. What is an example? Reasonable probability that use of the usable marijuana or exposure to the usable marijuana will cause serious adverse health consequences. So this is an example of it means of reasonable probability being used. So it's saying it means a probability sufficient to undermine confidence in the outcome. Okay. But that first definition just really just speaks volumes to the whole point of everything I'm saying. Where was this probability located? And how is it reasonable? 4 months, is it reasonable? We need these type of people kept. We're not concerned about what happens to them. We're not concerned about them getting another chance. We're not concerned about them getting out. The judicial system is interesting because some people get so many years without no probabilities or possibilities of coming back out. And people say that was a bit much. But then you have people like this that are released and released and released and released. And as we go over these cases with these people who have been killed, it's usually not even much time after these people were released. It's usually not even that much time after these people were released, time and time again. And then they're released. And that one time they release, they go right for it. What was y'all telling Henry to make him be clear that what he was doing wasn't okay? You weren't telling him nothing. Children see better punishment than this. You know, you don't get to keep just doing the same thing and not receive severe punishment. It's going to increase. You want to keep on? We're going to have to go about different measures because you're not getting the point. Why was this? Why? What did y'all think? There's no reasonable probability that Henry Dinkins was not going to be a detriment to his society. There was no reasonable probability that he was not going to be a detriment to the community or himself. The parole board's chair, Helen Miller, signed this. Y'all, I think Helen needs to be replaced and investigated. Y'all, do you, this, hold on. We are still awaiting a judgment for this girl right here. When I think about the forensic anthropologist and she was talking about Briage's hair. Everything y'all complain about her, I don't see it. I don't expect her to be having no pleasant on whatever kind of personality. She's a forensic anthropologist. That's a whole nother world. But when they asked her to describe Briage's hair, she acted like they were speaking Chinese. She was like, I don't understand what you want me to explain. She acted like it was a foreign substance, and she is an anthropologist. She acted like it was a foreign substance. And you can tell she got a certain texture because it's not woolly unless it was permed out. I'm not sure, but I don't think so. Or straightened, but it's not woolly locked. You can tell it's it's not as curly. I don't know the C's, but it's not a 4C. But it's hair. The woman was like, it was black. It had some shells in it. And it looks like she got 2 shells. So imagine if those 2 shells cut off. Because this was a significant identifier for people. Her mom, the officers, and then here's the anthropologist saying it had the shells in it. They marked this as an official identifier for the mom to even officially say that, yeah, that's her. Before they get down to the bones and the dental records. The anthropologist described the bones, it had to be somewhere around her age because they weren't fully connected yet to give her room to continue to grow. But it was the dental records that really positively, for certain, identify her. But the way the hair, she was like, I don't understand the hair. I don't know how to describe the hair. It was black. She couldn't give no description except for it was black and had beads in it. That was weird. Since I had that little rant, I felt like I needed to pull this up because I did say in my original video now that anthropologists don't really deal with hair. So I just want to come back in and like give her, like, I don't know, I guess redeem her in a way, because this is just my rant. It just was bothersome, really, because I guess she could have just made it clear that that's not part of her expertise, in which she did, but it was just the way she did it. Like, no, but they're about the bones. Okay, so it's a special subfield of physical anthropology, which is the study of human remains. Now, the hair is a part of the remains, but that's not a field that they specialize in. So let's be clear on that. Now, that involves applying skeletal analysis and techniques in archaeology to solve criminal cases. So when a human remains are of a suspect or a suspected burial are found, forensics anthropologists are called upon to gather information from the bones in their recovery. It takes a certain skill set, and I'm adding this in, to recover the bones, first and foremost. And then when you get them, they take the context to determine who died, how they died, how long ago they died. Let's see. Forensic anthropologists specialize in analyzing hard tissues such as bones. So when she's referring to soft tissue, she is referring to traces of her flesh and organs that were still, as we saw in the pictures, still remaining and attached. Her toes and her toe bones were missing, which they believe is connected to animals eating it. But she still has some skin and skin tissue attached. So with their training in archaeology, they are also knowledgeable about excavating buried remains and the meticulously recording the evidence. A forensic anthropologist can read the evidence in a skeleton like you read a book. The techniques they use to answer questions in criminal cases that can be applied to skeletons of any age, modern or ancient. The stages of growth and development in bones and teeth provide information about whether the remains represent a child or an adult. Okay, so bones, right? Bones marked by perimortem injuries such as unhealed fractures, bullet holes, or cuts can reveal the cause of death. The trained anthropologist is also able to identify skeletal clues of ancestry. Even certain activities. Did she find Brie as your daddy? I just cause we don't know where he at, right? So throughout this, they're not gonna say anything about hair. Not at all. And I'm just gonna scroll through just so we can be clear. They don't talk about hair. That is not something they research for whatever reason. It's not included in that field, that in that scope. Is there someone else that goes through the hair? We didn't hear nobody in her case, so I don't think that there's a field for that. And that is, oh, wait, because I heard hair, so I'm going to go back. Reconstructing the past. The study of historic human remains by a biological anthropologist at the Smithsonian has led to discoveries that are changing our view of the past and how we investigate it. The work of Dr. Osley and Carrie Brewhide has helped create a better picture of how people lived and died in colonial America. For example, even a healthy woman, a wealthy woman, she was wealthy. They didn't say healthy, they said wealthy. The wife of the governor of Maryland's first English colony, St. Mary's City, suffered from limited medical care for a fractured thigh bone. The sorts of treatments that would be used today, traction and screws, were not options at that time. Available treatments such as medicine containing arsenic may have made conditions worsen. Chemical testing of this woman's preserved hair showed ingestion of the, you know how they do some hair drug tests? Fuck about my business. All right, so with increasing dosage closer to death, whether used to better understand modern or historic remains, the tools and techniques of forensic anthropology gives the living a window into the lives of the dead. Now, when they got to talking about their hair, they wasn't talking about forensic anthropology. They were talking about biological anthropologists. So it is the study of human biological variation and evolution. This would include hair. Biological anthropologists seek to document and explain the pattern of biological variation among contemporary human populations, trace the evolution of our lineage through time in the fossil record, provide a comparative perspective on human uniqueness by placing our species in the context of other living primates. Students concentrating in biological anthropology are advised to take a course in statistics as well as one or more advanced courses in biological sciences. I took biological anthropology, guys. So the origin of species has long been a topic of deep curiosity for humans. In this course, we will look at the scientific evidence for the original and evolution Homo sapiens. And this course will be used data from evolutionary theory, primatology, comparative anatomy, genetics, and paleontology to understand the latest hypotheses regarding human evolution and modern and human behavioral biology. So when you get into all of this stuff, you have to know that they're going to use hair. Okay. Let's see. Primate biomechanics. They're gonna be, that is an introduction to the physical principles and musculoskeletal anatomies that include underlying primate behavior. Okay, they're gonna study basic mechanics, bone biology, soft tissue, skeletal anatomy, primate behavioral diversity, and the primate fossil. All right, so human behavioral ecology. The extent to which such variation is adaptive is topic of great importance and controversy. All right, reflects a growing interactions between the social and biological sciences. The objective is to critically examine the origin and development of this discipline and to survey physiological and behavioral ways that humans interact with each other. Human functional anatomy, all right, why and form. Like, okay, this is about science of nomenclature. It provides a universal language for understanding how and why. Form supports function. Okay. All right, so modern humans are best appreciated when contextualized against living non-human primates in the hominin fossil record. All right, cadavers, skeletal materials, models, and casts. Human evolution. All right, paleoanthropology is the branch of biological anthropology that seeks to document and explain the evolution of our lineage using paleontological and archaeological data. Emphasis placed on the bones and teeth and infer the biology and behavior of prehistoric species. Gross anatomy, scars of medical evolution. All right. This dissection-based course will explore the human body and its many imperfections. Body's clumsiness, compromises in our teeth, feet, backs, bottoms, and birthing. Chronic clinical concerns that reflect our evolution history. Classic scars of evolution. How far the human body fails. Human osteology is an important part of the biological anthropology with applications in archaeology and paleontology, forensics, and medicine. Design and acquaint students with the normal anatomy of the human skeleton. Principles of bone growth and remodeling, biomechanics, morphology, variation within and between populations, pathology, ancient DNA, taphonomy, and forensics. Human and comparative gross anatomy, a laboratory class that offers undergraduate students the rare opportunity to learn anatomy through anatomical dissection. Okay, learn about the structures of the human body, their integration, and most importantly, variation amongst humans. This is an intensive course requiring hours of study. Social, environmental, and health impacts of genocide, war, and other forms of structural violence. Darwin and human evolution. Human evolution, behavior, and biological diversity. Macroevolution, process from the perspective of the species and through the lens of deep time. So when you look at all these deep in-depth, this one is in health and disease, how principles from biological anthropology can provide insight into human health and disease. This course also asks students to criticize, analyze prevailing medical concepts of normal physiology, and illness. We adopt a comparative approach to consider the evolutionary, physiological, and cultural base of the human health and disease, including the human diet and nutrition, demography, life, history, and reproduction, pathogens, parasites, and immunity. Okay, it goes on and on. But I want to say something about this. Just recently in one of our groups, the woman got her hair tested to show what could possibly be some of the diseases that she have and ailments that she have, to try and pinpoint some things that's going on in her body. There's different ways you can go about, especially when your doctors aren't being accurate or even trying or whatever, giving you the right answers, and you steady suffering. You can have all kind of tests done, bone marrow tests. You got to research and figure out what's this, what's that, what should I test next, blah, blah, blah. And if you know the right things to test for, you can get down to some conclusions and some answers. And one woman had her hair tested and she found an abnormality and asked some questions in our group to see where that should lead her to her next step. And one thing she's researching as a possibility of invasion of her body is parasites. Okay, so let me all right, so I thought I had saved that because but I didn't have it. Unless I didn't have it where I saved it at, but I was almost sure I saved that test. So you look at the evolution of pregnancy, birth, and babies, stuff surrounding birth defects, breastfeeding, co-sleeping, all of these things. Human biological variation. How do human populations adapt to their local environments? You are not going to have, and the studies go on, as you can see. I'm scrolling, there's more. You're not going to have other forms of anthropology without having to study hair, skin, nails, all that kind of stuff. Because as you can see how deeply it goes with biological anthropology, it is going to need some of that data to help come up with answers and hypotheses. And especially, okay, so look at primate evolution and ecology, and they're having emphasis being placed on traits relating to diet, locomotion, growth, mating, social systems. How does hair not dive into this? We wouldn't know much about how the Egyptians wore their hair, why they wore their hair that way, if we didn't have more than just pictures and all of that kind of stuff. And knowing that the hair is left over, you would study that to even find out why do they still have hair when everything else dies. Why do they still have hair, and why is it continuing to grow? This type of thing. So it is. But when you come to forensics anthropology, okay, so anthropology is a study of humans and their societies in past and present. If we were viewing this woman as some other form of anthropologist or just an anthropologist in general, then we would be really taken aback that she has like no familiarity with what type of hair Bridget had. But she is in forensic anthropology, and that is a particular focus. So this is their focus, as you can also see with the presentation she did in court. And she talked about that bone. She even removed some of the soft tissue, because bone is hard tissue. She removed some of the soft tissue so she could further examine the bone. You're not going to be able to tell whether she was stabbed with that decomposing soft tissue, but the bone will show the impact. You saw the x-rays of she can show where the bone entered, how it entered, and whether or not it probably exited. And if not, for sure, she could explain that it did exit. She explained why in that particular area with what they found, why she can't say for sure, but it looks like that's what happened. Even with further digging, she was able to find shell casings and some teeth in the ground. And you have to be careful when you look for other stuff. So that would be her area of study. So that's pretty interesting. But at the end of the day, y'all, Henry shouldn't have been out. That's where we at with that. I always go off on something else, but blame it on the ADD. Henry shouldn't have been let out of court, out of jail, so he can kill this girl. And I'm ready for the sentencing, and I feel like I'm going to get something, I don't know, to celebrate. Maybe my favorite, Concord grape juice, nice and cold. I think I'm going to run out and get that today, just in case he come back today, but I don't think he is. I don't. I think it would be later this week or even next week. But shout out to that guilty verdict that we gonna see. Y'all don't forget to check out the jurors testifying in the AJ Armstrong trial, he already filed for an appeal, and him and his family gonna fight. So for those of y'all who think that he did it and he should be punished, they gonna fight on that one. they definitely gonna fight. That one is gonna be an interesting fight because he had a jury trial. And they got a lot that they going with. I'm glad that they glad that the prosecution tried to stand out for Josh, but it's been real, y'all.